Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to Ben Shapiro debunks white privilege. This should be a really fascinating video because obviously, I'm a black guy who lives in London, born and raised, so my experience will be different to a lot of you guys who reside in North America. Like regarding white privilege, based on my personal experience, I do think that there are potential industries where it maybe does help to be. I think it depends though. It does depend. I think if the people in power who are making decisions regarding things like hiring, if they have, bias towards white people, then, an ethnic minority who applies for a job there will feel the effects of white privilege. However, if the people in power, are of ethnic minority who try to be as impartial as possible, then the effects of white privilege will not be anywhere near, they might be minimal, they might be non-existent. I'm just trying to think about my life. Have there been points where I felt hard done by based on my race? I mean, there must be maybe one or two, but I can't think of any particular moments. Like if I do think of some over the course of reacting to this video, I'll say so. Like I have been racially abused like twice in my life. Once was at school where a guy in the changing rooms were getting ready to play football. Like he said something to me. This was non-racial. He said something to me. I said something back, which got people laughing at him. He got upset and then called me the N-word. Everybody gasped. And I went to pretty much like an all-white school. There was only a few other black people in the school. And everybody was stunned that he said that. He got kicked out of the school for like 2-3 weeks. I was quite happy. I was really upset that he's called me that. It was the first time in my life I'd ever been called that. And I was glad at how the school dealt with that. And the other time was a van drove past and called me the N-word as well. But yeah, those are the only 2 times in my life. I imagine for some of you guys who live in North America, it might be different. You might have a lot more examples of things like that happening to you. But yeah, unconscious bias is an interesting topic, there's a lot, I'm sure my sister would say it exists, but I'm just speaking personally. I don't know if it's... Let's get to the video. This should be... I know the intro has been quite long. I just felt like I needed to, give a bit of background as to my personal experience of life. Yeah, this video should be really interesting. Let's do it.
The question was, if there is unconscious bias, just to repeat it so I'm making sure I get it right. If there is unconscious bias, how does white privilege not exist?
The question is, given that there is unconscious bias, how does white privilege not exist?
So number one, when I speak about white privilege, so when I speak about white privilege, I'm speaking specifically about behavior. Okay, there have been no studies, and really I've looked at these studies, the connection between what they call implicit bias, this is their favorite phrase now, implicit bias, unconscious bias, and biased behavior has yet to be proven at any level that is even remotely necessary to be used in, for example, a courtroom, which is why it's never been used in a courtroom.
I will say it's probably very, very hard to tangibly, get any kind of study based on this because a lot of it is going to be anecdotal. There's not going to be any sort of witnesses to these things. It's going to be hard to, get any kind of study to prove unconscious bias. But that doesn't affect his point that there are no studies, which is probably true.
It is also true that there is no way, there really isn't, there's been no proven way to alleviate what they call unconscious bias, which means that we're ghost hunting. So what I would suggest is that if there is unconscious bias, and I'll acknowledge the possibility or the reality of unconscious bias, if there is, then I need you to I don't care about what's in people's heads so much as what they do. So if you point me to a racist behavior, don't worry, I'll let you respond. If you point me to a racist behavior, I'm happy to stand alongside you and protest it. What I can't do is protest about things in people's head that I don't know about because I'm not a mind reader.
Yeah, and to be fair, I can't argue with that. We need actual tangible examples of things that have happened with preferably some evidence, whether it's video evidence or recordings of a hiring boss saying he doesn't want to hire people of a certain race. You need actual examples.
Okay, so that's a really interesting response. And to that, I have two questions. Firstly, what I've heard you say that this is something that, the way people think doesn't affect their behavior. So that's the first thing you've said. So I'm really curious if you can kind of give me another example of a thought that somebody has which doesn't affect their behavior. Like, do people who, support Trump not vote for him? Like, I'm very curious about that.
Yes.
And secondly, so the second thing that I want to ask is that if it's something it's hard to fix, does it mean we shouldn't do anything about it? Because you said, I don't know if we can change how people think. Does that mean we shouldn't try?
I mean,
why did she do that impression of his voice? Oh, man. But the thing is, if something's hard to fix, you should still try and tackle it. But unless you actually know what you're trying to fix, the actual thing, the actual tangible thing that you can look at, you can't really build a solution apart from just educating people about how to treat people and, about how to remove unconscious bias and stuff. If unconscious bias exists, which is the basis of this video.
First of all, not a great impression, but beyond that, my voice isn't that low. But beyond that, as far as the first question, which is do people have thoughts that don't manifest in behavior? Yes, all the time.
For instance,
every thought that you have about walking up here and strangling me right now. I assume we have thoughts all the time that don't manifest in behavior, and this is true every single day. We consider thoughts that cross our minds. And the problem with unconscious bias is the idea is you don't even know that you're having the thought, right? So how can you stop it if you don't even know that you're having it? But then we should be able to gauge the unconscious bias and its impact on behavior. That's why it's unconscious bias as opposed to conscious bias. Right? The idea behind unconscious bias is that it's not even a ghost, it's a ghost of a ghost, because you don't even know you're having the thought. So people, The whole idea behind diversity training is the idea that you can retrain people to stop their chain of thought in order so that it doesn't manifest in behavior. I don't think that every thought manifests in behavior. If it did, then every time a man saw a good-looking woman walk down the street, a straight man saw a good-looking woman down the street, we'd have a real mess on our hands.
I think, really education from really early on, just, teaching kids that, we're all the same. Deep down, we all bleed. We all have the same desires, wants, needs, love for family, friends. We're all the same deep down. I think that's really the only way you can tackle any kind of unconscious bias in society.
So the second question, the idea was a little too broad for me to respond to, which is just because something is tough, don't we have to face up to it? Yes, we have to face up to tough things all the time. And one of the tough things I would suggest that we face up to is that you have a lot more control over your own behavior and the decisions you make than the supposedly widespread unconscious bias of people you've never met.
Hard to argue against anything he said, to be fair. Yeah, to be fair, it's what he said to me sounded pretty spot on. At the end of the day, unconscious bias, the very nature of what it's supposed to be are, thoughts that we don't even realize we have influencing our behavior. If you don't even know you're having those thoughts, there's no real way aside from trying to train yourself, preemptively so that you don't even have those thoughts that you don't realize you're having. Yeah, it's a really complex problem. And like I mentioned, I think schools probably bear the brunt of trying to eliminate any unconscious bias in society. Just like I mentioned in the video, just reinforcing that, we're all one and the same, we're all people. If one person of a certain race says something to you that you don't like or does something to you that you don't like, it's not reflective of that whole race. It's just that one person, Yeah, very, very interesting video. I'd love to know what you guys think about it. Let me know your thoughts. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good discussion here. Let's keep it civil. It's going to be fascinating reading your comments. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.